Baby foods. You ready for this one? I don't know how you grew up with things, and I know how I grew up with things, but I don't know what my mother was feeding me, but I'm 6.5 feet tall, so it must be something strange out of the what's Grandma doing? That's strange food. Right. Here's one for you on July 18th release for UPI. The Food and Drug Administration, FDA, has found significant levels of toxin heavy metals in the U.S. food supply during its ongoing monitoring effects, the agency said in a new report, and baby foods were among the most contaminated for arsenic and lead. They also found cadmium in it, mercury in them, and but let's see, what else did we find on their thing? Oh, other heavy metals, but lead and arsenic in the baby foods. Let me explain something about testing. I worked at Kraft Foods, R&D. They had listed 500 different tests they can do on food. What does that mean? Well, they have their American cheese. My job was for fats. I tested for fat in every type of food that the company had. The company was running, and for suppliers of raw materials. So if the milk that's in American cheese in Illinois is different than the Kraft buys cheese from vendors, other companies. They used to have their own Kraft plants, but that became expensive. Okay, let me tell you that if the cow is eating in Wisconsin, it's different from the cow eating in Illinois. It's different from Ohio, Indiana, New York, Florida, California. Because what the cow is eating in the grass, they're basically putting into their bodies, and that's your nutrients in your milk. And you can tell by what you see in your cheese from those locales, actually where the cows were eating. So anything that's above a certain percentage of parts per billion we're talking about, hopefully not millions, billions, that will show up. I have cocoa, the cocoa you put that thing, that contains some pretty, here's some deadly stuff, but it's just in such small amounts. Apples grown in New York and are the same apples grown in Ohio, have the same apples grown in Wisconsin, have the same apples, species grown in Oregon. But one of the things about apples is the seeds. You never feed you remove the seeds from an apple before you feed it to a horse. Why? The seeds contain cyanide, but such a minute amount. But you really have to chop up and eat a lot to die from cyanide poisoning from apple seeds. But there is those little buts over there. And again, finding arsenic, or that is, where are they getting their raw sources from? And what's in the soil? Yes, all those little things that your tomatoes in your backyard is different from tomatoes in Ohio. Yes, what you're picking up. One of the things I found out, and one of my neighbors had dry poop from the wastewater plant, and he would get big plants and everything else. I said, do you know what's in that stuff? No, heavy metals. You find a lot of cadmium in that. What? Yes, you got growing this stuff. It's like pot. Oh yes, you want to see big plants. That's where you put your marijuana seeds into. Yeah, that's human poop from the filtration plant. And you want to get big plants? You want to get strong plants. Past experiments, boys. Yes, that thing. But back to baby foods. Where do you get your raw materials? And you got to watch out this for any foods coming from overseas, from India, from China, from Indonesia, from Mexico. You've got to find out what's in the foods. How much? What's the nutrients? What are they taking up out of the soil? That's what's in your baby foods. I can't tell you where they get the raw materials, but that's what is coming out from your raw materials. Hopefully, they're not importing raw materials from China. Why? There's a section of land in China where I guess rice is grown. That rice grown in that area, nobody in those towns eat that rice. That rice is spread around the country because the soil has heavy metals in it. I mean, let's say it's lead, lead poisoning. But there's nothing they couldn't do because it's natural lead in the soil. Maybe it's from the lead mine. Okay, so they take the rice. As I said, they spread it around the country, and they may even export it. Ouch! It's like wheat. Where is wheat grown, and what's in it? The difference between different types of wheat and what's in the soil is picking up. I heard that wheat being exported from Ukraine is totally different than wheat being exported from Brazil or being exported from the United States because what's in the soil. Is the stuff dangerous? Well, got to consider that a lot of stuff is stored overseas, say in the Middle East. Not exactly what you want to. It's not FDA storage sites. Say that they're raw materials. But again, we go back to baby foods. Yes, is this stuff on purpose? Are they seeing this stuff in it? But now you're talking something as finding trace materials at parts per billion. It's like having, when I'm working on a bottle plant for, say, Gatorade, I know where the raw material when I was there came in barrels from Brazil. Yeah, the thing. But it came in barrels. That's your flavoring. Why? Because I guess it was cheaper getting it from Brazil than buying it locally. Yes, it is cheaper. And you're talking 55-gallon barrels. But again, it's all one thing. Did they have their thing? Big laboratories? No, they had simple biological at the bottling plant. But they sent it out to every batch that was run was sent out, even though we know what was in it. We know where the water comes from. We know where the flavoring comes from. But you would automatically have to send it out for a biological test. When after a run goes down, all the tanks are clean. Yeah, that thing. I worked in a candy company, the same thing. After each run, the tanks are clean. And don't take the word. Do not take the word of anybody there being R&D and testing thing that they actually clean the tanks. You have to go in there and physically test, look at the tanks to see if they were clean. I worked in another company where they packaged flavors, and we found little yellow specks in the food, or I found this stuff, and I said, "Hey, what's all this?" It turns out before the next run, somebody forgot to clean or did not clean it from the last run, and from the last product was whatever flavoring is, yellow specks in it. But now it started mixing the new speck. What they did, because it was 10,000 pounds of flavoring being mixed, they said, "Well, you want to throw it all out?" "No." "Put it in there." So you always have that. Otherwise, you can always see on labeling on packages, may contain nuts, will contain soil, will contain milk products, because people have allergies to many foods, and it'd be worse for your babies. Remember the powdered milk bit? How many babies in the United States needed special milk growing up, or baby milk? "Oh, you can't feed them the regular stuff." "Oh no, this has to be special milk." Special milk? Is it like special milk for kitty cats? When my female cat got pregnant, "Oh goody, gumdrop. Now we have to give you special milk." And I got her special milk. Baby milk, yeah. Okay, I understand that for a cat, but for a human? Oh, well, I'm quite sure they test where they're getting their milk from, because you never know what's in it, because it's coming in from a foreign country. Even if it was from Canada, it's still coming in from a foreign country. And when I was there in R&D, we tested products, because Kraft had plants in Wisconsin, Canada. Our was R&D mainly. We were there, and we got food samples from all around the world. We ran those 500 tests through this stuff, raw materials, and if we didn't like it, contracts we canceled. But when you come to baby food, how did they get past the USDA and FDA and military bases? When you know what strict food regulations are, go to a military base. Oh, you better know it. A lot of foods you can find on the consumer shelf across the street from military base food store is totally different than you. A lot of foods are never allowed. That's why Kraft has all these tests and making sure their food, when they're sold through the U.S. military, falls under U.S. military specifications. That's always a big one. Okay, I guess enough thing about baby foods. I just never surprised that they would find these things. And they looked at all the baby foods. It seems that not all the baby foods contain this thing, but enough to make it thing. And now you're dealing at parts per billion. Not like somebody is dumping lead shot into a food thing, but parts per billion. Is it harmful? Well, I guess maybe what my mother fed me or grandmother fed me. But again, parts per billion makes people worried. Have you ever seen my kitchen? I think quite sure you don't have babies around here, do you? No. I keep this thing spotless clean for my cats. I don't want my cats to getting sick by how stupid I am. Oh well.